Mayday! Mayday! These were the last words from Air India Flight 171, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner, packed with 242 lives, rising into the sky above Ahmedabad. In just 40 seconds, it climbed to 625 feet, then plunged back to Earth in a fireball. One survivor, dozens dead on the ground, a nation in shock. What happened in those fateful 40 seconds? This is the true story of the crash that rewrote aviation history. It was June 12, 2025, in Ahmedabad, India. Air India Flight 171, a Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, was preparing for its journey from Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport to London Gatwick. On board were 230 passengers and 12 crew members, 242 people in total, each with their own hopes, dreams, and stories. The plane was fully fueled, its engines humming as it taxied onto the runway for departure. At precisely 1:39 p.m. local time, the massive aircraft was cleared for takeoff. The engines roared and Flight 171 began its ascent into the clear afternoon sky. Within seconds, it reached an altitude of about 625 feet, its last recorded position before disaster struck. Witnesses on the ground described seeing the plane suddenly lose altitude, its nose tilting downward as it veered off course. At 1:40 p.m., just 40 seconds after takeoff, the unthinkable happened. Flight 171 crashed into the hostel block of BJ Medical College in Meghaninagar, Ahmedabad. The impact was catastrophic. The plane's fuel ignited, sending a fireball into the air and engulfing the hostel in flames. Emergency services rushed to the scene, but the scale of the disaster was overwhelming. The crash site was a scene of devastation. Inside the aircraft, all but one of the 242 passengers and crew perished in the impact and ensuing fire. On the ground, at least 39 people, mostly students and staff at the medical college hostel, were killed, and dozens more were injured. Among the wreckage, a single miracle emerged. One passenger survived the crash, a man whose identity has been widely reported as Vishwas Rames, though official sources have sometimes withheld full details out of respect for his privacy. He was pulled from the wreckage with severe injuries and rushed to the hospital where he fought for his life. His survival against all odds became a symbol of hope in the midst of tragedy. Rescue operations were hampered by the intensity of the fire and the sheer scale of the destruction. First responders worked tirelessly to recover bodies and treat the injured, but the heat and flames made their task nearly impossible. Forensic teams were brought in to identify the victims, many of whom were unrecognizable due to the severity of their injuries. The hostel, normally a place of learning and camaraderie, was transformed into a scene of horror. Students who had been studying or resting in their rooms found themselves caught in the path of disaster. The community rallied together, offering support and comfort to those who had lost friends, family, and colleagues. In the hours and days following the crash, investigators from India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, AAIB, arrived at the scene. Their first priority was to recover the aircraft's black boxes, the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder, which would provide crucial clues about what went wrong. Initial reports from the black boxes revealed that the flight crew had issued a mayday call just moments before the crash, indicating a catastrophic loss of power or control. Witnesses on the ground reported hearing a loud bang or explosion before the plane went down, though the exact cause remained unclear. As investigators sift through the wreckage and decode the black boxes, they are confronted with a complex puzzle. The sudden loss of altitude and catastrophic crash of Air India Flight 171 just seconds after takeoff, is an event so rare that it challenges even the most experienced aviation experts. At this stage, several technical theories are being considered, but it is important to emphasize that none have been confirmed, and the investigation remains ongoing. One leading theory centers on the possibility of a dual-engine failure, an event known in aviation as a double-engine flameout. Modern aircraft like the Boeing 787 Dreamliner are designed with multiple redundancies and advanced safety systems, making a simultaneous loss of both engines almost unthinkable. However, it is not impossible. Potential causes for this include a bird strike, where large birds are ingested by the engines, causing immediate and catastrophic damage. Another possibility is fuel contamination, where impurities in the fuel supply could lead to engine surge or shutdown. The deployment of the ram air turbine, or ARAT, an emergency power system that activates in the event of a total electrical or hydraulic loss, strongly suggests that the aircraft experienced a significant loss of power. Another area of focus is the aircraft's flap and landing gear configuration. Flaps are critical aerodynamic surfaces on the wings that increase lift during takeoff. If the flaps were retracted too early or not deployed correctly, the aircraft could suffer a loss of lift and enter a condition known as a stall, where the wings no longer generate enough upward force to keep the plane airborne. Video evidence and witness accounts have raised questions about whether the landing gear remained extended and if the flaps were in the correct position for takeoff. In aviation, this is known as a configuration error, and it can be especially dangerous during the critical phase of takeoff, when the aircraft is at its heaviest and most vulnerable. Some experts have also speculated about the possibility of a pilot error, such as inadvertently retracting the flaps instead of the landing gear. This could result in an immediate loss of lift, especially if the aircraft is already struggling to climb due to high temperatures or a heavy load. The concept of pilot-induced oscillation or control input error is well understood in the industry, and investigators are carefully reviewing cockpit recordings and flight data to determine if any such action occurred. Additionally, the investigation is examining the aircraft's maintenance history and recent servicing. The Boeing 787 involved in the crash was an 11-year-old airframe with over 41,000 flight hours. While it had a clean maintenance record and one of its engines had recently been replaced, investigators are looking for any signs of overlooked issues or latent defects that could have contributed to the disaster. Other potential factors, such as extreme weather conditions or structural failures, have been considered but are seen as less likely given the clear weather and the aircraft's relatively young age. The presence of anti-terrorism units at the crash site is standard procedure in such investigations, though there is no evidence that suggests foul play. It is crucial to note that, at this stage, none of these theories have been confirmed. The investigation is painstakingly analyzing every piece of evidence, from the black box data to the physical condition of the engines and flight control systems. The final determination will depend on a comprehensive review of all available information, and the aviation community is awaiting the official findings with great interest. The crash of Air India Flight 171 sent shockwaves across India and the world. Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the nation, expressing his condolences to the families of the victims and pledging full support for the investigation. He declared a national day of mourning, and flags were flown at half-mast across the country. The Indian government announced compensation for the families of those who had died, offering financial support to help them cope with their loss. Air India's CEO, Campbell Wilson, issued a statement expressing the airline's deep sorrow and promising full cooperation with the authorities. The international aviation community also responded. The U.S. National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, and the UK Air Accidents Investigation Branch, AAIB, offered their expertise and support to the Indian investigation team. Boeing, the manufacturer of the 787 Dreamliner, sent technical experts to assist with the inquiry. In Ahmedabad, vigils were held for the victims, and the city came together to mourn and support one another. The tragedy was a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of aviation safety. Behind the statistics and technical reports were real people, each with a name, a face, and a story. Among the passengers were students returning home, families reuniting, and professionals traveling for work. The crew members, too, were experienced professionals who had dedicated their lives to ensuring the safety and comfort of their passengers. On the ground, the students and staff at BJ Medical College were going about their daily lives when disaster struck. Many lost friends, roommates, and colleagues in an instant. The sole survivor, Vishwas Rames, became a symbol of resilience and hope, his survival inspiring others in the face of unimaginable loss. The tragedy touched people around the world. Vigils were held in cities across India and abroad, and messages of condolence poured in from leaders and ordinary citizens alike. The Taj Mahal was lit in memory of the victims, and Prime Minister Modi's words, "This scar on our nation will drive change," resonated with a grieving country. The crash of Air India Flight 171 has already begun to reshape aviation safety in India and beyond. Investigators are working tirelessly to determine the exact cause of the disaster, and their findings will inform new safety protocols and regulations. One of the key lessons from this tragedy is the importance of redundancy in aircraft systems. Experts are calling for enhanced training for pilots in the event of dual engine failure, as well as improved bird strike prevention measures at airports. The deployment of the Ram air turbine, while a critical safety feature, highlighted the need for better understanding and preparation for such rare but catastrophic events. The aviation industry is also reflecting on the importance of communication and coordination in emergency situations. The swift response of emergency services and the support of the international community have been praised, but there is always room for improvement. A memorial is planned at the crash site, where the names of the victims will be honored and remembered. The legacy of Air India Flight 171 will be one of remembrance, learning, and a renewed commitment to safety in the skies. In 40 seconds, 242 lives were forever changed. One survivor carries the stories of those who did not return. A nation mourns, and the world watches. This is not just the story of a plane crash. It is the story of resilience, of community, and of the enduring human spirit. It is a reminder to cherish every moment and to never forget those we have lost.